Hi, my name's Whitney.
Hi, I'm Jackson.
Hi, I'm Katie.
I'm 17 and I'm a junior.
I'm 14 and I am in 8th grade.
I'm 14 and I'm an 8th grader.
How old will I be in 5 years? Wait, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Yeah, graduate college, that will be 5 years.
I hope to finish high school and make the soccer team next year.
I'm gonna try a lot of new things in high school that I've never tried before, like debate, art, maybe try track again.
I would have told myself to be myself in middle school because I would have found my friends naturally and not trying to fit into boxes that weren't meant for me because they weren't who I was.
Go with the flow. God has my life planned out for me and that I can just trust Him always.
Don't worry about things as much. Most of the things that you're worried about when you're really young don't matter as much as you think they do, and to just trust God that it'll be okay.
God is the one who decides the future. You know, I can think about what I want to do in college all day long, but if that's not His plan for me, then it's probably not going to work out.
You can't really control the future as much as you hope you probably could. Make the most of your situation.
No matter how far you think that you are away from God, like He has got you, no matter what.
Hey, thanks for jumping on our YouTube channel. This week we are kicking off a brand new series called Me in 5 Years. And the question that we're going to be asking throughout this series is, who do you as students want to be in the next 5 years? And based on how we answer that question, we have to ask the next one. What things in my life need to change now so I can best set myself up to become the person that I want to be in 5 years? My guess is for you that you want to be the absolute best version of yourself in 5 years. So if that's the case, that means that we are all going to have things that we need to change or reorient to become that person. I want you to take a second. I want you to think about where you'll be in 5 years. Because the truth is that if you are a new 7th grader in our student ministry, you're going to be entering into your senior year of high school. That's crazy to think about, that in the next 5 years, you will be just about done with your high school academics. And you'll be preparing yourself to step into college and begin to think about what kind of college you'll want to go to and what kind of majors you're going to want to study to become the person that you want to be as you enter into adulthood. Some of you will be right at the point where you have graduated high school and you'll have turned 18 and you'll be becoming an adult. And you'll be thinking about things like, what college am I going to go to? But also, maybe there's another career out there that I want to pursue first. Maybe you're looking at starting a dating relationship, maybe somebody that you're interested in not just hanging out with, but somebody that you might see yourself spending the rest of your life with. And there's a group of you too that will be graduated from college. You'll have your degree in hand. You'll be beginning your career. Some of you may be married. Some of you might have kids. Like, there are crazy things that are going to happen to you in the next 5 years. The question we want to wrestle with throughout the series is, who do we want that person to be? What do we want to look like? What are the things that we want to do? And how do we set ourselves up now to become that person? And the thing that we're going to talk about this week, in my opinion, in 10 years of working with middle school and high school students, I believe is the most important thing to get right to become the person that we want to be in 5 years. And it is simply the relationships that we have. And I'm not just talking about the dating relationships. I'm talking about the people that we allow closest to us. See, in my opinion, there's really different kinds of friendships, right? Like, some of you may say, well, I've got friends that I have as followers on Instagram. I've got 500 or 600 or 700 followers on Instagram, and they're all my friends. I have relationships with all of them. But you really aren't in deep relationship with them. What I want to talk about this week are the people that you allow in. They're the people that know the most about you. They're the people that you go to when things seem like they're completely out of control. They're the people who are the first people you will call when things are just crazy. And why this really matters is because for most of you as teenagers, you are in a phase right now where your friends, the people that you spend time with at school or on your teams or in your workplaces, are the biggest influence in your life. You see, you all go through this phase where mom and dad are no longer your biggest influence, and now it is your friends. And what you need to know is your friends have incredible influence in your life. The truth is, for you and for me, the relationships in our lives can either be our biggest asset or they can be our biggest curse. They can be the thing that pushes us to become the best version of ourselves, or they can be the things that are constantly tearing us down. This week, we're going to be in the book of Proverbs. The book of Proverbs was written by a guy named Solomon. It's in the Old Testament, and Solomon is referred to by Jesus as the wisest man who ever lived. What I love about the book of Proverbs, it's very plain. It's very simple. It just says, do this, don't do this. If you do this, this will happen to you. It's just really easy to read through and to understand. And this week we're going to be looking at Proverbs chapter 13, verses 20 and 21. It says this: walk with the wise and become wise. Associate with fools and get in trouble. Trouble chases sinners while blessings reward the righteous. That's a lot of big words and big terms. What is Solomon saying? Well, I think quite simply he's saying we become who we associate with. Solomon is saying very clearly that the people you hang out with, you will eventually become. If you want me to tell you the person that you're going to be in 5 years, show me the people that you're going to hang out with over the next 5 years. And this is a universal truth for all of us. A lot of you know my story. You know that for a time in my life, I spent a little bit of time not working in ministry. I worked as a youth pastor for a long time. I stepped out of that because I needed to do something different just for a season in my life. And so I started working at a place called Nebraska Furniture Mart. And I knew when I stepped into that environment, it was going to be different than working in the church. You see, I had worked retail all throughout college, and so I knew the kind of things that were said and the temptations that existed and the ways in which people talked. And I remember walking into that environment when I first started and thinking, man, I want to make sure that I'm a beacon of light in this place. I want to make sure that I set an example for how a Christian deals with living in an environment that isn't the best. And I'll be honest with you, for the most part, I did okay. But I discovered about myself, especially in the area of my language, the words that came out of my mouth, that the longer and longer I was around just toxicity when it came to my language, the more and more and more I sounded just like the people that I was hanging out with. Now, some of you might think, well, that's a weakness on my part, that I should be better, that I should know Jesus better, and I know Jesus pretty well. But it didn't change that I eventually became who I hung out with. And the same is true for you. You've had times in which you've stepped into a certain friend group and you thought you were going to be different. But over time, eventually you become who you hang out with. So that's why when we talk about relationships have to be of paramount importance, that's what we're talking about, is because we eventually become who we associate with. And the second is this: our closest friendships are our most important relationships. Talked a little bit ago about kind of the difference between Instagram followers and people on Snapchat versus people that are in your circle. And that's what we're going to talk about next. Proverbs chapter 27, verse 17 says, as iron sharpens iron, so one friend sharpens a friend. So I want to think about for just a minute. I want you to think about the group of friends that are closest to you. You know, maybe it's 2 or 3 really tight friends, or it's 6 or 8 really close friends. I want you to think about them. And here's what I believe that needs to happen for you to become the person that you want to be in 5 years. I believe that you need to pay attention to those friendships, and they need to fall in one of 2 categories. The first is simply this: that they should all be someone you admire spiritually and someone that follows Jesus with a passion that you desire. Somebody you look up to, somebody that you admire for who they are. And when you think about who you want to be in 5 years, you just want to be that person. You just want to grow up to be just like them. Now, maybe you're in a friend group and that person really doesn't exist. Then this needs to be true for you to have the right relationships. Someone who is going in the same direction as you spiritually. Someone who is moving in the same direction, that is chasing after the same things that you are chasing after. Somebody that you can encourage and they can be an encouragement to you as you pursue a relationship with Jesus. Now, I know some of you are already thinking, but Matt, you don't know my friend. You don't know him. And I think that God has placed me in their life to fix them. And I'm not sitting here and I'm not telling you that you shouldn't have friends who aren't Christians. I do. Everybody should have friends that aren't Christians. I'm talking about that inner circle of people that are closest to you. And if you've got people in that circle, or you live in a circle where maybe you're the only one who's following Jesus, I'm here to warn you, just from somebody who has worked with your age group for a long time, I have never seen it work out successfully for the one person that steps into a friend group and is going to fix everybody. And my guess is you haven't either. You've never seen a friend that maybe somebody you were really close with, and you moved to middle school or you moved to high school, and kind of all the friend groups were new, and they stepped into a different friend group, and you knew, like, man, that is not the group you want to hang out with, because they're always doing the wrong thing at the wrong time, and they're always in the wrong place, and you don't want to hang in there. And they're like, well, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to fix them. I'm going to set the example for them. And my guess is that you've never seen like that group all of a sudden just like flip a switch and they're all doing well. And all of a sudden they've gone from like this kind of trouble group to this like really cool group that everybody wants to hang out with. My guess is you have seen the opposite. Your friend steps into that group and within 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year, they look completely different than the person that you knew. Because dragging people down is so much easier than lifting people up. The last verse I want to share with you is a verse from Paul, the book of 2 Timothy, where Paul is counseling Timothy, and he says this: avoid worthless, foolish talk that only leads to more godless behavior. This kind of talk spreads like cancer. Avoid being in groups where foolish talk passes along, because it spreads like cancer. Man, when we say that word cancer, for a lot of us, there's a deep wound that is there. Mine is my grandfather, my best friend, who went from being healthy to stage 4 cancer and being gone in the matter of 3 weeks. And I remember when he was diagnosed, when all that came down, it was like, man, there was a plan immediately. There was something to do. We were meeting with doctors, and we're going to start him on chemo. And if chemo doesn't work, then we'll move to radiation, and we'll take him through this process where we will do everything we can to eradicate this cancer from his body. Because here's what we know about cancer: if cancer is left untreated, it will destroy the host. It will kill. And I don't know how familiar you are with cancer, but let me explain to you basically how it works. See, cancer starts as just one cell in your body. And it begins to grow rapidly. It begins to expand rapidly. And it gets to the point where it's growing so quickly it becomes unhealthy. And it begins to kind of push around all the other healthy cells that are in your body. And it attacks them and eventually makes them unhealthy. And eventually you have so many unhealthy cells in your body that it overwhelms your body's ability to fight the cancer. And when we talk about toxic relationships, when we talk about letting people into our inner circle, it's like when we are inviting cancer into a healthy body. Because eventually that relationship is going to knock around all the other healthy relationships. It's going to move everything else around. And eventually you're going to find yourself in a place that you never intended to be, simply because you let an unhealthy relationship in your life continue to move. So as we think about who we want to become in the next 5 years, as we think about becoming the best version of ourselves in the next 5 years, we have to get the relationships right. If the relationships are going to be the number one thing that it influences us, they have to be the thing that we get right. So my challenge for you this week is simply to analyze the relationships that exist in your life. Are they people who are helping you grow into the person that you want to become? And if they are not, what needs to change about those relationships so that you can become the best version of yourself? Let's pray. God, I'm grateful for this week. I'm grateful for your word. I'm grateful for this new series as we talk about becoming the best versions, becoming the people that you created us to be. But God, that doesn't happen just overnight. It doesn't happen without some work and some intentional thought. So God, I pray as we think about the relationships that are in our lives, the people that we allow close to us and in our inner circle, I pray that you will bring clarity to us, that you will help our students to have the right people around them so that they can become the people that you created them to be. Thank you for loving us. Thank you for Jesus. It's in his name we pray. Amen. Hey, thanks for jumping on our YouTube channel this week. We got some incredible things happening at the gathering right now. If you haven't come and joined us yet, please come hang out with us. If not, we'll see you next week right here for week 2 of Me in 5 Years.